Welcome back to a Book a Day podcast. We are discussing Daodejing this week. This is the seventh episode. This is going to be the second last on the book, and I will cover chapter number 61 to 70 in this episode. So, without any delay, let me follow what I've been following. Well, I'll read the text from the book and then I'll discuss briefly its interpretation. I feel for most part the meaning is quite straightforward, but wherever necessary, I've been trying to make it simpler for you. So let's start once again with chapter 61. The text goes, "A great nation is like a low-lying land, the meeting place of all waters. It is the female of the world. The female always conquers by stillness and yielding. So, a great nation, by lowering itself, conquers smaller nations, and small nations, by submitting, win over the great. Thus, some conquer by yielding, and some win by submission. What a great nation wants is simply to shelter others. What a small nation wants is simply to serve others. When both act according to their nature, both find what they seek." So that's the chapter, that's where it ends. And you can see how the quality of humility, in this case, humility as a strength, has been taken from personal to very much like political. Lao Tzu here is comparing a great nation to the ocean because it is vast and it lies below all rivers. So, what that means is true power attracts not by dominance but by receptivity. The image of the feminine that has been used, soft, still, nurturing, and it symbolizes the paradox of Taoist strength. And as I said, it applies on both personal as well as political level. Gentleness achieves a lot of things what aggression cannot. When we cease to compete, others are naturally drawn towards us. So that's the chapter. Now let me read chapter 62. It goes, "The Tao is the refuge of all things, the treasure of the good and the protector of the not so good. Beautiful words can win honor, good deeds can gain respect. But if a person is not good, why should he be rejected? Therefore, when the Son of Heaven is crowned, or when the three ministers are appointed, do not offer jade and horses, but offer the Tao itself." Why did the ancients value the Tao? Because it gives and does not demand, because it shelters the guilty as well as the pure. This is why it is the greatest treasure of the world. Once again, we are talking about a little bit about politics. And he's saying is, the Tao is not a moral code that rewards the virtuous and punishes the wicked. No, it's not that. It is a kind of an ever-present refuge. It sustains both light and shadow, saint and sinner. There's no discrimination. Lao Tzu's compassion, as you can see, lies in this universal inclusion. Nothing is outside the Tao's care. And to live by the Tao is to recognize that existence itself, it forgives, it nourishes, and it renews over and over and over again. Let's move on to chapter 63. It goes, "Act without striving, work without interfering, taste the flavorless. Treat small troubles as important and great troubles as small. The difficult things in the world must be done while they are still easy. The great things in the world must be done while they are still small. Therefore, the sage never strives for greatness and thus achieves greatness. Once again, the chapter distills this Taoist art of effortless action, which is Wu Wei, the philosophy of Wu Wei. Here, Lao Tzu advises us to act early and gently. Before any kind of effort, it becomes strain, it becomes tedious. By valuing the small, we can prevent the chaos from growing large. And as I said, he keeps talking in paradoxes. Once again, he talks about that the one who never seeks greatness, he achieves it, and the one who is constantly seeking it, they won't achieve it. Because what is important in this view is that our actions, whether they are growing organically from awareness or they're coming from ambition, which is going to be abrupt and not going to be sustainable. So that was chapter 63. Now I'll read for you chapter 64. It says, "What is at rest is easy to hold. What has not yet begun is easy to plan. What is fragile is easy to shatter. What is small is easy to scatter. Deal with things before they arise. Put them in order before confusion begins. A tree that fills the arms grows from a tiny sprout. A 9-story tower rises from a heap of earth. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath one's feet. The one who interferes fails. The one who grasps loses. Therefore, the sage does not interfere and never fails. He does not grasp and never loses." Once again, just continuing with the same idea. You might have noticed that one particular sentence, a journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath one's feet, as it has been written here, or you can say it begins with a single step. That has been quoted all over the world. But the wisdom of it goes deeper than just this proverb. Lao Tzu is reminding us that every outcome has humble beginnings, and that the wisdom lies in care at the smallest stages of the things. Don't have to wait, just work on the smallest of the details of your project, and you will achieve greatness. You don't have to interfere too much, you don't have to control or grasp things too much. That comes from impatience. Be patient. Just organically work on the things that you're working on with a great eye for detail and a lot of care, of course. Now, on to chapter 65. It says, "The ancient masters who followed the Tao did not seek to enlighten the people, but to keep them simple. The more clever and learned the people become, the harder they are to govern. To use cleverness to rule a state is to be a curse to the land. To rule with simplicity is to be blessing to the people. To understand these two is to have true insight. Knowing this constant is called mysterious virtue. Mysterious virtue is deep and far-reaching, returning all things to their natural harmony." Once again, he comes back to the idea that he has mentioned quite a few times, that cleverness might not be a good quality. You must focus on simplicity. And Lao Tzu clearly distrusts over intellectualization, whether it's politics, religion, personal life, everywhere. It's not healthy. So the ancient masters, they did not seek to fill people with knowledge, but to preserve the natural order, natural simplicity. Because what he keeps repeating here is that cleverness multiplies our desires and it creates more divides. Simplicity, on the other hand, it restores balance. So this is a kind of a case or a warning against arrogance. And towards the end, the one term he has mentioned, mysterious virtue, that's really the silent, quiet power that arises when we return to the natural order. That is, when we are living without pretense, governing without manipulation, thinking without vanity. That's what he is talking about. So these chapters, as you know, they talk a lot about the politics, but the same principles have been discussed earlier for the personal life, and you can see how they can easily replicate in both spheres, personal as well as political. Now, chapter 66, the text goes, "Why is the sea king of 100 streams? Because it lies below them. Therefore, it is a king of 100 streams. If you would lead the people, you must learn how to follow them. If you would guide them, you must place yourself behind them. Thus the sage stays above the people, yet they do not feel his weight. He stays ahead of the people, yet they do not feel harmed. All the world delights in pushing him forward without wearying of him, because he does not compete. No one can compete with him." Once again, the same quality, same example, that you must stay humble and, just like the ocean, stay close to earth, down. You must learn to follow your followers. And this image of the sea or the ocean, it's a symbol of humility and depth. And Lao Tzu once again keeps reminding us that true leadership comes from service. If you want to be above others, if you want to guide them, you must first be below them. Not in terms of status necessarily, but in terms of your spirit. The leader who listens, yields, and supports, he becomes the natural center of all those around him. And this is what he is prescribing for most part of the book, restoring the natural order. The nature does not have artificial hierarchies. They are very much organic. If you do good deeds, if you do services, if you do things for others, if you care for others, people will naturally be drawn to you. You won't need a position of leadership. People will follow you. And that's something he's guiding us towards. Now, chapter 67. Let me read the text. "Everyone under heaven says that my Tao is great, yet it seems unlike anything else. It is because it is great that it seems different. If it were like others, long ago it would have been small. I have 3 treasures which I hold and cherish. The first is compassion. The second is frugality. The third is not daring to be ahead of others. With compassion, one can be brave. With frugality, one can be generous. With humility, one can lead. But if one abandons compassion and seeks only bravery, if one abandons frugality and seeks only generosity, if one abandons humility and seeks only to be first, one is doomed. Compassion alone brings victory in battle and safety in defense. Heaven saves through compassion." And this particular chapter is really interesting for 2 reasons. One, it talks about how the Tao is different for everyone. It means you have to find it within you, and that's how you'll discover. You're not going to find it elsewhere in the universe. You have to look inward. And the second thing, he reveals the ethical heart of Taoism. Three things: compassion, frugality, and humility. Just listen to this, that he does not, when you listen to these lines, he does not praise heroism, he does not praise wealth or pride, but he's talking about moderation, he's talking about self-restraint, gentleness. And they may seem like passive virtues to a modern ear, but they are the foundation of his philosophy. They are the true strength according to him. Compassion gives him courage, frugality gives him endurance, humility gives him authority. And it's a radical and a timeless message. It's beautiful. So that was chapter 67. Chapter 68 is very short and again very interesting. It says, "The best warrior is not warlike. The best fighter is not angry. The best conqueror does not engage in battle. The best leader takes the lowest place. This is called the virtue of non-striving. This is called the strength of compassion. This is called the mastery of others through the Tao." Once again, talking in paradoxes. He says the greatest mastery lies in the absence of aggression. A true warrior wins without fighting because he has already overcome the causes of conflict within himself. And when he says that if you want to lead, you have to take the lowest place, it means you lead without ego. And if you think about it at a deeper level, the Taoist sage, he governs energy rather than governing people. He focuses on his own energy and doesn't force it. He transforms the energy. And that's how it works. Now, chapter 69, it says, "In warfare there is a saying, I dare not act as the host, but prefer to act as the guest. I dare not advance an inch, but prefer to retreat a foot. This is called moving without moving, rolling up the sleeves without baring the arms, capturing without confronting, holding without wielding a weapon. There is no greater disaster than underestimating an enemy. To underestimate an enemy is to lose one's treasures of compassion. Thus, when two forces meet, the one that yields wins." Once again, it feels like the meditation on the power of restraint. Now, Lao Tzu applies the principle of softness, gentleness, even to a conflict, to war. In the first few lines, he says to act as the guest, which is to means not to assert yourself. And to retreat a foot means to give space for transformation. When we meet force with humility, we maintain balance. And the one who underestimates an enemy or any kind of challenge, let's say, he's acting from a place of arrogance and he loses his compassion. So victory, at least in the Taoist sense, it comes through understanding, not through domination. And now chapter 70, which is the final lesson for final chapter for today. Let me read it. "My words are easy to understand and easy to put into practice. Yet no one under heaven understands them or practices them. Words have an ancestor, deeds have a master. Because people do not understand this, they do not understand me. Those who understand me are few, and those few who follow me are respected. Therefore, the sage wears rough clothing but holds jade within." This chapter, it feels very personal and it feels it's carrying some kind of melancholy. Lao Tzu, he recognizes that his teachings, they are simple in form, they are profound in essence, but they are rarely understood. They are not practiced widely because the world chases complexity and misses the root of the wisdom. And he uses interesting phrases like words have an ancestor. It means that speech must come from silence. And similarly, deeds have a master means that actions must arise from stillness. The sage may appear ordinary, that is, rough clothing, but deep inside he carries jade, he carries the inner treasure of insight. So that's it for today. In the next episode, we are going to be discussing the last few chapters of the book, and I'll catch you then. Thank you very much for listening.